Jai Maha Maya ki jai. Jai Vishvamata ki jai. Bole Baba ki jai. Today we're going to read about the birth of Parvati. After Shiva had been with Sati for some time, and Sati's father was very disrespectful of Shiva, she burnt herself and left her body because she could not have her husband disgraced. And Shiva went into great loss and grief. So we're picking up there now. Shiva ranged the earth dementedly with Sati's ashes and her bones. Wherever he rested, he began to meditate, slowly mastering his grief by meditation. But all the worlds were distraught as if they had lost their inmost grace. All creatures, gods, demons, mans, beasts, and bird were as if their hearts had run dry, for joy had left them. Strange anxiety and indifference had its way with them. Diseases of body and spirit stalked heaven and earth, and creation was full of unease. Misfortune seemed to be the pivot around which life revolved, and the planets of fortune were retrograde in their orbits. It was at this time that a great asura, a demon of awesome power, obtained a boon of invincibility from Brahma and began to rule the worlds. His name was Taraka, and the boon he had was that no one except a son of Shiva himself could kill him. Of course, he was also immeasurably strong. Taraka collected a huge army of asuras and rakshasas. He vanquished Indras and all the Devas and assumed sovereignty over the three worlds. After Sati's death, there was small chance of Shiva taking a wife or having a son, and the asura was secure in his vast power, for no army of heaven or earth could vanquish him. Taraka cast the Devas out of heaven and sat upon Indra's throne. His chosen Danavas ruled the earth, fire, sea, and air. They had power over the sun and moon and the planets. Creation was mantled in darkness, and evil held sway over the hearts and lives of all the living. The Devas lost their power, their luster, and hid from the hunting asuras in deep jungles, in the hearts of deserts, and in lonely mountain caves. Finally, when it dawned on them that they had indeed become like beggars in creation, Indra's people went in distress to Vaikuntha to see Lord Vishnu, who is always their savior. In tears, his vanity quite crushed, Indra prostrated himself abjectly before Narayana and cried, "Lord, save us from Takasura. Only you can." Vishnu said, "It is the Devi Bhagavatam who can help you." When a mother scolds her children, it never means she has stopped loving them. She only does it for their own good, so that their callousness may not lead them into deeper trouble. Go, pray to the Divine Mother. She will deliver you from Taraka. So the Devas went to the Himalayas and performed a fervid tapasya fueled by their plight. They performed Parashcharana karma, repeating the gods' sacred names and making burnt offerings to her. The Devas lost themselves in that worship. Years passed thus, and the gods of light grew wan and wasted from their austerities, for they purified themselves with harsh vigors. Then one day, the 9th Titha of the moon of Chaitra in a Friday, the Devi appeared before the prayerful Devas on that mountain. Her luster was that of a lack of suns, and it seemed the mountain had been subsumed into a higher realm, into the heart of all the light in the universe. The Vedas were there hymning her, and the mass of flame she appeared in the midst of her beauty, there was nothing in the three worlds, in all the galaxies, that it did not engulf. She was a blinding light, and the Devas shut their eyes, for they could not bear her effulgence. But when they looked again, they saw she, the Parashakti, had turned herself into an incomparable young woman, so exquisite that beauty began with her. Her youth was just blooming. Her breasts were like lotus buds. She had golden ornaments in her hands and arms, and a splendid necklace set with unworldly gems around her darkling throat, casting its brilliance across the pale mountains like an enchanted sun. Her hair was luminous and hung down to her ankles. She wore a delicate, tinkling waistlet and anklets above her fine, dark feet. Her mouth was perfect, tinted scarlet with the beetles she chewed. She bore the moon in her crescent on her forehead. Her eyebrows were long and arched, and her eyes were reddish like the crimson lotus. Her teeth were like flowering buds of kunda. She wore a string of pearls as well around her fluted throat, and she glowed like small moons. On her head she wore a coronet worked again with matchless jewels. She wore beautiful flowers in her hair, and she had kumkum on her forehead. She carried a shining goad in one hand and a brilliant noose in the other, the symbols of her sovereignty over time. Her other two hands were formed in the mudras of granting boons and deliverance from fear. Her eyes were like soft stars upon her face. The third one slumbered on her brow. She wore a crimson silk garment, and she was as bright as the flowers of the Dharma tree. Stormed by her grace, the Devas were speechless before her. Then slowly, as she stood smiling mysteriously at them, they began to chant the mantras that worship her, to sing her many names in ecstasy. She said to them so gently, "Tell me, Devas, what ails you that you worship me so fervently? Ask me for any boon, for I am a tree from which my bhaktas can have any fruit they like." Swept by a gale of joy, the Deva said, "Mother of the world, save us from the terror of Taraksura. That Asura has a boon that only a son born to Shiva can kill him. But, oh Devi, how will Shiva have a son when he has no wife? We fear he will never take a wife unto him again after Sati ashed herself. All the worlds are ruled by fear and despair, for Shiva is grief-stricken. Maha Maya Parashakti, we beg you, incarnate yourself again and be Shiva's wife, or Taraksura will destroy the worlds. And Mother, lastly, grant that we, Devas, always be devoted to your lotus feet." And the Devi said, "My Shakti shall incarnate as the mountain's daughter, and she shall be Shiva's wife, and they will have a son who will rid you of the Asura. And I bless you, Devas. You will always have bhakti in your hearts, and my grace be upon you and yours." Smiling now, she added, "Not only your tapasya brings you this boon, Himalaya has also worshipped me, and I shall come to him as his daughter." at which the Lord of the mountains, the mighty spirit of the Himalayas, stood embodied upon his loftiest peaks, a great white figure, and tears flowing down his craggy face, said, "Mother, no boon in all the worlds can be higher than this one you have blessed me with. I shall be renowned across the universe that the creatrix of all things incarnated herself as Himavan's daughter. Who can be as fortunate as he whose child is the one in whose belly all the millions of Brahmadas exist? Ah, peerless fortune, my sires shall find the highest heavens for themselves after this fortune of fortunes. But I beg you, Mahadevi, Parmeshwari, enlighten me now that vanity and darkness leave my heart, and I become worthy of this boon of boons you have granted to me." The Devi said to the Devas and to the mountain Himavan, "Before creation, only I existed. That form of mind, that formlessness, is called Chit, Sambit, Parabrahman, and many other names too. But that self of mine is beyond the mind's comprehension. It is past even the God's thoughts. It transcends all its names and symbols. It is one, unequaled, beyond birth, death, and change, unborn. As heat arises from fire, as rays emanate from the sun, so too Maya does from this imperishable Atman. All these words in time are the Maya. Maya also has no beginning, but it surely ends with moksha. I, the pristine soul, who am attributeless, nirgana, become saguna, diversely embodied when I am united with Maya. Then I am Shakti, the cause of this and every world. Maya is also twain. She is avidya Maya, which binds in darkness and ignorance, and vidya Maya, that liberates. This Maya too is known by many names: Shakti, Prakriti, Samsara, Jada. In creation samsara, there are jivas and there are Ishvara. Both have 3 bodies and 3 names. When the jiva dwells in his causal body, he is prajna. In his subtle body, he is taijasa. And in his gross body, he is vishva. So too with Ishvara. He is Isa in his causal body, Sutra in his subtle body, and Virata in his material form. It is Ishvara who creates the universe, impelled by my Brahmi Shakti. I am the Param Brahman, the cause of causes, and the Ishvara is conceived in me as a serpent is imagined in a rope. Many are the jivas, the mandalas, and the Ishvaras as well, but I am one, the Parabrahman, the Adi Shakti. The Brahman is the ground upon which all the worlds are created, the fabric from which time is woven. I enter the worlds as subtle breath and sustain them, and when I leave, I destroy them, transmute them. And just as the rays of the sun are not defiled when they fall upon the gross earth, I am untainted by the worlds I enliven. I am actless. The worlds and time flow from me, but not because I exert myself to create them. All the mandalas are based upon me, but not because I make any effort to sustain them. They are not real, as the Brahman is. They wither and die. They are made of illusions of Maya. Even the Ishvaras are finally illusory. They are born, they live and die. Though the worlds and their creatures, their very gods, appear to be a myriad, in truth they are all founded in just one, and that one is all there ever was, is, and shall be. Only ignorance sees the many in the one. O Devas, O Himaya, all creation is made of me. I am Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshvara. I am the Brahmi, Vishnavi, and Rudri Shaktis. I am the sun, I am the moon, and all the stars. I am birds, beasts, chandalas, and the thieves as well. I am the savage hunter. I am the virtuous Mahatma. I am all men, woman, and every Enoch too. Be sure that if you see anything at all, I dwell in it, and that is why it exists. No more can anything on any world exist without me than a son can be born to a barren woman. I am the ground upon which all being and time are founded, and that are found in these, said Devi. Himavan, Lord of Mountains, said, Bhagavati, if you are pleased with me, show me your cosmic self. Show me your Vrata Rupam. The Devas echoed his wish, and the goddess stood revealed before them, and she was everything that existed, or ever did, or shall. Upon the crown of her head, the highest worlds of Satyaloka, the realms of truth and bliss rested. The sun and the moon were her eyes, the quarters her ears, the Vedas issued from her sacred speech. The universe was her pulsing heart. The earth was her loins. The Mahaloka was her neck. The Taparloka was her brow. Just below Satyaloka, Indra and the Devas and their Svargaloka were her arms. The Ashvins were upon her nose. Agni was her face. Day and night were her wings. Four-faced Brahma sat upon her forehead between her eyebrows. The ocean of purity flowed from her mouth as her saliva. Yama was her teeth, Maya was her smile. All gross creation was her side looks. Modesty, her upper lip. Adharma was behind her. Prajapati was her vagina. The gross seas, her bowels. The mountains were her bones. The rivers, her veins, and the trees and plants, her body hairs and down. Youth, virginity, and old age are masks she wears. The moon was her mind. Vishnu is her Shakti, and Rudra her apocalyptic power. The beasts of nature are her loins. The netherworlds, Atala, Patala, and the others are her legs and feet. The Devas and the mountain Himalaya gazed upon her. They were within her as well and were rooted with wonder. She contained everything within herself, all the worlds and all the creatures, and she was irradiant as a million suns. As they watched, they saw her smile. They saw her begin to lick up the universe with her crimson tongue. She chewed all the creation with fangs as long as time, and the sounds she made during this were awful. Her soft eyes grew fierce and spewed flames longer than imagination. Before the Deva's terrified eyes, before Himavan's shocked, staring gaze, she became an apparition of absolute dread. She had 1,000,000 arms and hands, all bearing horrible weapons. She had 1,000,000 heads and faces, each one wild and dark. Her demented scarlet eyes were everywhere. Numberless suns and awesome gashes of lightning shone and played across her face. Galaxies erupted and died upon her velvet skin, her brilliant pores. The Devas began to scream in terror. The mountain roared in fear, and in a moment Himavan and all the gods swooned and fainted at the Devi Bhagavati's feet. In a while, the embodied Vedas roused them with soft mantras, and the immortals on the mountain prostrated themselves at the goddess's feet in hymner, in awe, and in fervor. Obeisance to thee, Mother of the worlds, the nature of Pranava. Who can measure your greatness when you are all there is, all place, all time, and the great peace beyond these? You are the one of whom the Vedanta speaks, you alone. Obeisance, O Hrim, without whom nothing would be. You are the self of all the living. From you the fire and the sun and the moon and the earth have flowed. From you the healing herbs have come. Why, from you all the gods were born. You are the source of all the worlds and all their creatures, from the smallest to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. We tremble to see your cosmic forms. Mother, we beg you, be as you were before, so we can bear to look at you. Be soft and lovely again, ah, dreadful, unbearable one. And she stood before them, exquisite and kindly again. She was 4 arms and held the noose and the goad in her 2 hands, and the others formed in mudras that dispelled fear and granted boons. She was gentle and smiling, and her presence was of such grace their minds were washed by a wave of joy and relief to see her like that again. Kindly she said, Devas, Himavan, only the Brahman is real. Everything else, all the worlds, is illusion. It is Maya. In samsara, the soul incarnates in myriad of wombs, good and evil, and is never free. Karma turns the wheel of life and death round. Ignorance is the root of karma and of these lives, their pleasures and agonies of death and rebirth. Only when ignorance is dispelled with wisdom do these lives and deaths end, and the soul realizes its eternal nature. Only then is it set free from the cycle of birth and death. Gyana is wisdom, and true wisdom is only the knowledge of the Atman, the imperishable soul, the Brahman that was never created, but always was and shall be, which is the foundation and the source of lives and worlds, the condition beyond change, the undying peace and ecstasy. Desire prompts karma. Action and desire cause attachment. A man expects to enjoy the fruits of his karma, what he does. Lost in a jungle of deeds and desires, darkness engulfs him, and he seeks his peace outside of himself, where it is never to be found. Enduring happiness, the joy of the soul, exists only within you. The bliss of the soul, immaculate, untouched by sorrow, attachment, or desire, welling as naturally in the depths of your own hearts as breath does in your bodies. That is Gyana, which ends the darkness of the mind and liberates the embodied soul from incarnation, reunites him with the eternal truth. Yet the scriptures do not advocate sloth. An embodied being must spend his years engaged in karma yoga, for deeds performed without desire for their fruits, but done with perfect relinquishment as worship. These too are liberation. Whatever you do, offer it as devotion to Brahman. Why to me? And you shall come to salvation, to moksha, from which there is no return to this realm of sorrow. Seek perfection in your every deed, and you shall come to peace one day. Seek wisdom too, for deeds without wisdom are hollow. The embodied mind has as much need of karma as for Gyana, just as he has need of day and night. Some of the wise say that at last, just as day and night cannot exist at the same time, so too karma and Gyana cannot. Actually, karma loosens the bonds of desire and attachment that bind all creatures in darkness, while wisdom, Gyana, severs those knots. But then both time and the path to enlightenment are not short, but span many lives, and each soul must pass through all the stages and shades of evolution and experience before coming to nirvana, which is the final aim of the incarnate lives the spirit assumes. Slowly taking many steps forward and many back, also the soul treads a long way to liberation. Learning many lessons, unlearning them, and learning them again, purified by thousands of births and death, the spirit rises towards the light of Brahman, from where it will never return. Jai Maha Maya ki Jai, Bole Baba ki Jai, Jagdambe Mata ki Jai, Haryakandashvari Mata ki Jai, Bole Baba ki